telling you now, hit that subscribe button, or I'm going to come through that screen and rip your head off.
Take your best shot, mate. Good luck getting your hands around this potato sack.
Firstly, thank you for taking the time to watch the last video. I greatly appreciate your amazing support.
Eddie Hall revealed some of his fitness training to fight Thor.
Here's my video.
The camera work's making me dizzy.
Dude, stop touching me.
So Eddie Hall is going to fight Thor, I think. I don't know because I don't keep up with it. I think it will materialize. General life advice, never fight a man called Thor. And so personally, I'm such a fan of the martial arts and combat athletes that I don't really get excited for these celebrity fights. I prefer to watch the professionals fight, but that's just me. Some people may want to watch it, may be excited. That's completely valid. Welcome to the Let's Have a Chat playlist where I present ideas for discussion amongst this community. I found something which I think is interesting and which can create educational discussion in relation to concepts such as the aerobic threshold, heart rate, intensity, intervals, and also a diversion into altitude training. And most importantly, I give you homework.
We're going to do 32-minute HIIT session. So that's basically replicating 8 3-minute rounds, but we're going to do 1 minute on, 1 minute off.
High intensity interval training, which essentially is a period of high intensity work followed by a form of recovery, and then that cycle replicated for the duration of the session. And so instantly I want to express that I do have a video on HIIT myths, and that video concerns the goal of fat loss, where HIIT of course is a very valid way to train, but the afterburn calories from HIIT are overstated in much fitness discourse. However, in this case, Eddie Hall is training for performance goals, for conditioning, not for fat loss per se. But I just wanted to mention my other video for some of you who may be interested in those ideas.
It's more like an active recovery day. During that 1 minute, we're going to get the heart rate to like 160, maybe 170, and then the minute off, it should drop down to like 140, 130. So we're keeping, throughout the 32 minutes, we're keeping the heart rate above like the aerobic threshold, so we're benefiting with those 32 minutes.
Aerobic threshold, let's go full nerd. And so the most basic way to explain this is the aerobic threshold is the point at which your body can no longer sufficiently use oxygen as an energy source. And the aerobic threshold more specifically is the point in which blood lactate starts to increase. When you reach that threshold, your blood lactate will rise, and then you're in the ranges of anaerobic training, meaning a lack of oxygen consumption during that exercise, and anaerobic pathways of producing energy are therefore required. And when you're in these anaerobic ranges, the exercise you are performing can only be done for a relatively shorter period of time. You're breathing hard basically, and that will be high intensity. And in Eddie Hall's case, he is using his heart rate to measure his intensity. Very basically, he's working hard for short periods of time. Why couldn't they have just put that in the textbooks? That poor heart rate monitor looks like it's about to explode. That is what we call a tight fit. That's what she said. Those jokes are coming back. Enjoy them.
But 8 exercises, we're going to do that twice. 8 rounds, twice. So you are starting on, why am I starting? You're starting on battle ropes, I'm starting on kettlebell swings.
4, 3, 2.
And so it's essentially conditioning work involving multiple muscle groups. It's a full body session and involving different movements, different planes of motion, the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, the transverse plane. Rather than, for example, him just sitting on a bike and knocking out intervals, he is using these different dynamic movements. This movement is fantastic. It involves multiple joints and muscles and highlights the posterior chain, or what is technically known as the Instagram muscles. Exercise 2, the Prowler, which sounds like a slightly perverted superhero. Look out, the Prowler's about. And so this piece of equipment is great, and it can be used in a variety of ways depending on the amount of weight you're using, the body position, the duration and the intensity of how you're using it, and therefore it can be applied to multiple different goals, such as power, for example, or in this case, for high intensity interval conditioning, which absolutely is a valid use of the Prowler. We could just call it a sled, but Father Christmas patented that. Greedy. Number 3, the what bike? What? That was a 10 out of 10 gag. Shut up. And so these form of airdyne bikes are a staple in conditioning work. And so why would you use an airdyne bike, for example, compared to the more traditional indoor stationary bike? First reason is that It has a fan on the front of the bike, as you can see, which uses air as a resistance. And so essentially, the harder you pedal, the more progressive resistance you will create, which is absolutely perfect for intervals, as you can very quickly and easily shift between lower and higher intensity without having to fidget with the display. And when you have sausage fingers like me and they're sweaty, it can be really annoying. So the Airdyne bikes are fantastic for interval conditioning. The Ski Erg, never heard of this or seen this in my life. The lats are clearly getting some love in here, and it's clearly related to skiing. So I don't know about that machine, so I'm not going to pretend that I do. But if I do put some music to it, it looks like Eddie Hall is pulling shapes on the dance floor. Bat slams. AKA the Poker Bad Beat stress reliever. And so if you are a combat athlete, comment below. Is this something that you do? Again, this is something that I've not seen. Generally, I would imagine that people punch, elbow, knee and kick bags, but hitting it with a baseball bat does look cool. The worst exercise ever created. Whoever created this exercise is a nasty, nasty person.
Surprisingly, of all the workouts then, my heart rate was the highest after the burpees, which you wouldn't think, like how the pace was going, you wouldn't think that would be the hardest one, but that was the hardest one on my heart, was the burpees.
Then the rower, battle ropes, and repeat the whole thing. Brutal.
Oh, right. 32-minute workout. Done. 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Now, I couldn't get my heart rate monitor to sync until 8 minutes into the workout, so it's only logged 24 minutes.
What did I tell you? That's why I went back to the G-Shock in case I get run over by a tank. But that is actually a legit problem with heart rate monitors. It can be smartwatches, it can be actual heart rate monitors. From time to time, they just don't work. I've experienced that before. I'm sure you've all experienced it, where you just can't get the reading going, which can be annoying. However, the fact that he is using the heart rate monitor and tracking what he's doing is absolutely excellent, because it does give him that measure of his intensity, and he can break that down to individual exercises to see which exercises raised his heart rate. And then during his recovery periods, how far was he able to decrease that heart rate in that short amount of time, which is also another parameter for his fitness and conditioning. And so here was an interesting comment expressing to Eddie that he may be interested in altitude training. And I've talked about the altitude mask before and just how terrible it is, because it does not replicate the effects of altitude training. So whilst the training mask is complete junk, altitude training as a concept is absolutely legitimate, and essentially it can help to improve somebody's endurance by increasing the amount of red blood cells. And in red blood cells you have hemoglobin, which carries oxygen around the body, and of course oxygen, which is an energy source for prolonged exercise. So absolutely, altitude training is legitimate, and there are many ways you can altitude train. You can live high and train high, or you can live high and train low, and the reason for that is you're gaining the benefits from living at altitude, but you then train at lower altitude so you can perform effectively within the session, so you're not overly compromised. But you have to be at altitude for a prolonged period of time. That's why these training masks that you slip on for an hour or two just are not effective. And so most importantly, what are your thoughts on his training, his exercise selection, the way he structured the session? And to play us out, I'm going to play Eddie's clip of the very important what he does post-workout.
So now to home, stretch off, bit of dinner, and then I'll get him a jacuzzi. Stretch off again, do a little bit of hot cold. I'll go away from here, I'll shower, get some food in me, and I will feel $1,000,000. Such a good way to recover from weight training as well. So good session, really pleased with today. Good with the heart rate as well, so I'm happy.
I'm James Linker. Thank you for watching, you beautiful degenerates. See you very soon.